Investigators in Montana say a plane that crashed and killed 3 families may have been overloaded. 14 people were on the plane when it went down in a cemetery, 7 of them children. 5 of the 7 adults worked in the medical community in California.
It's like getting hit with a baseball bat. He was a leader. He was one of our rocks here in the eye care center, and having that rock taken away is going to be significant.
Investigators say the 65-year-old pilot of the plane was a former Air Force pilot with thousands of flight hours piloting civilian aircraft. His original flight plan was to land in Bozeman, but he diverted to Butte. KXLY in-depth coverage tonight from Spokane to Butte. Our Jeff Humphrey is at Phelps Field tonight with details on the type of plane that crashed. First, though, to KXLY4 Sally Showman in Butte tonight, where some of the victims' relatives visited the site of the wreck.
Crosses line the fence here at Holy Cross Cemetery where the crash happened, one for each of the 14 victims. I spoke with an eyewitness today who was among the first to respond. He says the memory of seeing the kids' ski equipment and backpacks strewn all over the cemetery is something he'll never forget.
My husband Dan ran around the corner and he said, "Oh my God, that plane crashed."
Ruby and Dan Eamon witnessed the crash from their home a few hundred yards from Holy Cross Cemetery.
Ball of fire burning, which was most of the airplane, and pieces of the airplane laying around.
Dan says he didn't think twice before driving to the crash site to help any survivors, but he quickly learned there was nothing he could do.
It was indescribable, the feeling that I got just seeing what was there and knowing that there was nothing I could do about it.
Among the victims on board, children about the same age as his.
Kids like my kids on that plane, and it was just like seeing my own kids laying there on the ground, and I don't know, that was pretty hard to deal with.
Today, the NTSB has very few clues as to what caused the tragic wreck. They say the pilot changed flight plans mid-flight, landing in Butte instead of Bozeman, but he never made a distress call or gave a reason for the diversion. Witnesses say the plane was about 300 feet in the air when it took a nosedive straight to the ground. The Eamons are having a hard time explaining the crash to their children.
They don't really understand what's going on besides for that it crashed and that a lot of people lost their lives yesterday.
Even though those people were complete strangers to the Eamons, their memory is something Dan says he won't ever get out of his mind.
Everything I do today just reminds me of what I seen.
The NTSB is investigating every aspect of this crash, including the weather at the time of the crash, also the pilot's history. Also, they're looking at the load on the flight. According to the manufacturer, the maximum number of people allowed on board is 11. There were 14 on board yesterday. Tomorrow we'll learn much more in a press conference tomorrow afternoon. In Butte, Sally Showman, KXLY4 HD News.
Our in-depth coverage continues tonight with KXLY4's Jeff Humphrey live at Phelps Field. And Jeff, that plane that crashed is made in Switzerland, but widely flown here in the U.S. and used by our military. But it really is more of a commuter plane, right?
Yeah, Robin, several regional airlines use this particular plane to service their routes to smaller airports. It is very popular with businessmen trying to travel to out-of-town meetings. In fact, one of them is available for charter here at Phelps Field, and that's because the PC-12 is considered a very safe and sturdy aircraft. The Pilatus 12 is a single-engine turboprop that can carry up to 9 passengers almost halfway across the country without refueling. Even though the plane's been flying since 1994, the Pilatus has averaged less than 1 crash per year.
We have no reason to believe that there are safety issues with this aircraft. There have been over the years, 14 accidents that we have looked at.
National Transportation Safety Board officials say the Pilatus that crashed in Butte was carrying 3 more people than the 11 it's certified for, but still don't know if the aircraft was overweight.
We have to get the weight of the fuel. We have to get the weights of all of the luggage and any cargo that may have been aboard the aircraft.
Aviation experts doubt being overweight was the cause of the crash. If the Pilatus was overloaded, the pilot would have likely had more problems during takeoff. Investigators have also ruled out weather, saying visibility and temperature were not factors.
All 4 points of the aircraft were there. The front of the aircraft, the engine, the wings were there, and the tail section was there. So therefore, we have no reason to believe at this time parts may have fallen off the aircraft.
Pilot error is a possibility, given the man flying the plane was landing in an airport different from the one on his flight plan.
This one is not going to be one that we can answer you in the next 2 or 3 or 4 months. This is going to take a while.
And that's because there was no flight data recorder on this particular aircraft, nor was it required to have one. The lack of survivors in this crash is going to make the investigation that much more difficult. Reporting live at Fells Field, Jeff Humphrey, KXLY4.